Hello there. Today I'm going to do the Scream TV series episode 1 a little earlier than I had anticipated. Uh, I was on Netflix and I decided I would watch the first episode today. So we start off at the lake somewhere. Looks like it would probably be based maybe in Georgia, I'm guessing. So we have a creepy male voice singing about, I'm guessing, what's going to be either the main character's mother or someone in their mother that has that as a nickname, or her name is Daisy. And then right after that, it shows that a video was uploaded to what would be what we would call YouTube, but had a different name in the show. But since it's a lot like YouTube, I'm just going to stick to YouTube. And the person that uploaded it, her name is Nina, and her friend Tyler O'Neill had decided that they were going to post it to try to humiliate these two women, or high schoolers. Oh, I really don't know if they're high schoolers or just that, but so she's outside. So she goes outside after a bunch of weird happenings happen. I don't want to try to spoil too much for everybody, but some weird things had happened, and she keeps getting these text messages from Tyler, and is like on the verge of like creepy, but not past what a normal, I guess, high schooler would do in a weird area. I mean, I don't know. I never went to this lengths to try to be with a woman, but she gets into the hot tub. Then what happens is that's when we are now realizing that it's no longer Tyler because of some things that had happened. And I have to admit, for a TV show that came out in 2015, even with MTV, I give credit where credit's due. I'm not big into the whole blood and gore scene personally, for me, but I will admit, for a TV show, there was quite a bit of the blood effects, and it looked decent. So I really give them credit for that TV show aspect. And unfortunately, she locked herself out and is pretty much doomed at that point. And the killer obviously ends up getting to her for what was actually a decent kill scene, in my opinion. It was better than. I mean, I wouldn't put it on the levels of what the movie Scream had did with the Drew Barrymore, but I will give them credit for how they did it, because it was very intriguing to see. But I still say the movie opening for me was better. But this setup showing that it's a different mask, it's not your typical ghost face mask, and I think that's because they also couldn't get the rights to the original ghost face mask. But that doesn't bother me. So then they cut to the morning, to where they show some more another couple in Will Belmont and Emma. I'm not sure what her last name. Duvall. Emma Duvall. Yeah, that's her last name. Where they were studying for a math test, and Will was just more interested in trying to apologize for not showing up the other night because apparently his phone had died. So, right there, we might have a possible red herring with Will possibly being the killer, because they just show that, and the way they went about explaining it would make me think there's a possibility that he could be one of the killers, personally. just my thoughts on it. I haven't seen this in a long while. I do forget. And then the mother comes in a few hours later and asks if it was Will she heard, and then starts to explain, uh, shouldn't kids be doing homework and not doing homework and rotting their brains on junk food and playing video games? And more about cops, because she works as a coroner, and there's Emma saying that her mother should try to hook up with the sheriff for some reason that I don't know. But they end up going to school. Now, when they open up with the school scene here, what happens is one of the girls that was in the video that was uploaded is in school, and there are people kind of making fun of her over her kissing a girl, which I think is completely stupid that they're all picking on her. But I guess in high school kids are harsh. I guess I never had that problem personally. But seeing Noah Foster and Audrey Jensen Moore as a character now, for like Noah actually being introduced and Audrey getting to hear her side of what had happened, it's definitely trying to be different than how Scream the movie was, and I give them a lot of credit. Because you wouldn't think a slasher film would work as a show, and it is slower than what a horror film would be. But I kind of like where they're going with it, because it seems like they want to go down the route where they're going to make you either like or hate the characters. But a lot of it like, and by the time it's time for them to get the death, it's going to hurt more. Which is something, it's a little harder to do in the actual movies because of the time frame. But personally, I think it's an interesting way. Let's just put it like that. So, anyway, I kind of threw myself off. Hearing Audrey just wanting to take it down, it sounds like with that, the one she was kissing might be different. Maybe she can't handle criticism from other people in the comments section in a good way. Maybe she's depressed or something. And then after that, they cut to the classroom where they open up and they introduce a new character, Kieran Wilcox, who's the sheriff's kid who just moved. And right after that, they start talking about the gothic genre, which is kind of like horror. It branch off of like what horror would be. The castle. Excuse me, sorry. The castle of Otranto, or however you say it. I'm not good with words, but it's interesting because it's like they want to acknowledge things, and they're saying that like zombies aren't like literature, but what about like George Romero or Horace Walpole? You know, it's all the same, but we have gothic genre on TV in 2015 at that point, because you had like American Horror Story. It would have been Hannibal too, but Hannibal didn't happen. And then they start going back like to why slashers wouldn't work, which is kind of what I went into just now, thinking about it myself. Because you have like your main girl come in. So the nerd, which is Noah, which we see more of now than a few scenes ago, goes to show that like he feels slashers couldn't end. This is where the parody of how Scream was, where it was kind of trying to kill the genre, so to speak, happens. But it's not a full parody like a comedy. It was showing more how these things could sort of happen in real life to an extent. And it was interesting. And then, like, they found out, then her parents come home, found out that Nina had died the night before, and they forced all the students into grief counseling. Now, the thing that I find interesting with this is now we hear about what had happened to Emma's father a little bit, to where Brandon James, who at this point we really don't know, apparently had tried to kill 5 people, and including her father, but her father was the only survivor of the killings. And so she doesn't like hearing that the newspapers and press and all that are trying to play up that Brandon James is back from the whole Nina Patterson death. And then Kieran, the new kid, asks who's Brandon James, and Noah just goes full ham, saying, like, because Kieran said, and you know this how? And he's like, well, most people like sports. Well, Brandon James is my Dallas Cowboys, and I like that reference as a someone who does enjoy sports himself. I thought that was a little cool nod in there. But that's just my views on that part. So then we hear that Brandon James is deformed and all of that. And it's different. Now, it's not your typical slasher in a way. Because now, like, this guy actually has to wear that mask. Because he had to get surgery done. He had that problem like the Elephant Man. And we find out that Brandon had loved someone, but apparently and allegedly, a bunch of drunk jocks had jumped him and thought they were saving the woman from a monster. But what had happened, we'll find out. But so far, apparently the girl he loved agreed to meet him at the lake. Well, as soon as he arrived, she said you should turn yourself in, and then the cops ended up firing and shooting and allegedly killing Brandon James. Which I'm intrigued to see how they'll go around that, personally. I wonder if we're going to get a different story at the end. Maybe, is it possible that, like, Emma's mother could be involved somehow, or Noah's mother, or what if Nina's mother's involved? That's what I'd like to know. That's what I would think. But with little subtle clues here and there, with the next scene with Emma's mother opening a box and finding a heart in it that was like hand carved and saying Daisy on it, I have my own question with that. And then we cut off from there, and we see that the sheriff is holding a press conference. And he's saying if you have like any tips for this and that, call the hotline number. And they're trying to figure out if Tyler O'Neill had done it, but they can't find him. So, with that, I wonder if it's possible. If it's possible at all. Possibly one of the kids is the killer. I don't think Brandon James... I don't think even if Brandon James was alive, he'd be trying to kill teenagers now. If he was there. And another character in here that they have is Jake, who's like implying that Nina was just your like kind of a local, like she was going out and being with every single guy she could be with. And then Jake got Will a little bit in trouble with Emma because Will had lied from what happened earlier, saying that the phone had died, there was no way I could get a hold of you. And Jake said, well, I picked him up. And then Yeah. So he's not too thrilled. And then with Nina's passing out, Audrey, the one kissing the other girl in the video, Emma goes up to her and says, if you want to come to the vigil for Nina, you can. And there's going to be alcohol. But Audrey goes, I'm kind of grounded. I can't really go because of the video. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I think it's intriguing if it's true. Maybe Audrey's parents don't like that she might be, that she's possibly lesbian or bi-curious. And then Will comes into this woodworking class and tells Jake to get rid of some type of stuff on a computer. So I don't know if maybe if they were being maybe blackmailed or something with Nina, and maybe they decided to kill Nina, which is a possibility, but it could just be a red herring in there. But Jake's being a little bit cocky, like, oh, I'll do what I want to do. Don't like when he leaves, like, oh, whatever. And then this is what makes me a little uncomfortable going to it. There's one of the main character's friends, Brooke. Apparently, her and this teacher, Mr. Branson, have like a little thing with each other, like what they call study sessions. But the way she was talking, it sounds a little more on that creepy side, and I don't like that with my stuff. I mean, I'm not ridiculing anybody that likes that kind of stuff in the show where there's it seems like a high school student and a teacher. I'm guessing she's about maybe 17. I mean, maybe the state they live in, there's different laws, but it's just one thing that unsettles me personally. But then they cut from that, and there's a knock on Emma's door. And she opens it, and there's a box labeled for Daisy. Well, this is what gets me. She asks her mother, do you know anybody named Daisy? And the mother just kind of looks a little confused and waits for a second. And then says, oh, no, must have been the wrong house. But what confuses me with that, if I was Emma, wouldn't I think a little differently and not just go to the party immediately? Wouldn't I want to see what's in the box myself? But I know it's part of the show. It's just me, as I'm doing this more as a live recording thing while doing it. So Emma decides to leave and goes to the party where we open up and we see, where her mother opens up the card, and this is what was creepy. It says, Emma looks just like you at that age. Okay, so now we know that Daisy, from the story of the whole Brennan James trying to talk to her and that, and got beat up. So we know that her mother was Daisy, on this side of the fourth wall anyway. They're not going to know. But what creeped me out was what was in the box. It was some kind of heart, an animal's heart. I want to say it was like a pig's heart, maybe, or a horse's heart. It was a big heart, which kind of creeped me out a little bit. But I understand it's a show. So we get to Brooke's house now, and they're talking about why she's allowed to have the party, and she's going off like, oh, I have this, my dad gets this out of it. And then Will's being a little jerky, saying, oh, I have a thing to go to. The coach of Duke is going to be there, or a scout of Duke is going to be at this game tomorrow. And then him and Emma pretty much start kissing. I like Brooke's response here. Oh, I'd say go get a room, but I don't want to clean up. So then Audrey shows up. And Noah, was who she brought with her. And he was making a little joke saying, "Oh, I have the same type of house up at the Hamptons." And Jake's just being a creep at this point, with Audrey saying swimsuits are completely optional. Freaking creep. And then everybody's looking at her, and she just snaps and said, "Yeah, I'm the one that kissed a girl in the video." And Noah tries to lighten up the mood, saying, "Oh, hey, star of the viral video." And then he just walks outside awkwardly. So it seems like they're kind of the social outcasts of this, what will be this group. And then Kieran shows up after that, but right before that, Emma's like, "Oh, I invited Audrey," because they keep saying that, why'd she come when she wasn't invited? And then Kieran shows up, like I just said. But Will asks Emma, "Hey, did you invite him too?" And Brooke's like, "No, this one's on me." And then, so they go outside. Emma's outside with Audrey now. And they're kind of just talking about what seem to be their old friendships. I guess they were friends in the past, possibly. And Audrey was filming it for a second. And they kind of just talk. So it does seem like Audrey is bi-curious, as she put it, and that her and the one in the video had met at a film club, like a film party, and and we find out that like this other one that she was kissing in the video said, "Oh well, she doesn't like how she looks." So I imagine it was going to be like she's depressed, people pick on her, and then Audrey was talking about again the past and said, "Well, yeah, but you got pretty," and then we find out that she is bi-curious, allegedly in the show. I think she was. I think she's more. I think she's more lesbian. Really, I don't think she's bi-curious. I think she's just too afraid to come out with the actions I saw. So then they cut to awkward Noah, as I like to call him, from the few scenes I've seen. And he meets this girl whose name is Riley. And she was asking, "Wasn't your picture in the paper?" And Noah's like, "Oh, yeah, my picture was in the paper. My mother did that, but clearly without asking." So then they were talking about the space program that he wants to go to in the summertime. And interesting with that. So then they're just talking, kind of being a little, good friends. Then we cut to the house. And all we know about the box is it's a warning, or at least Emma's mother, Daisy, thinks it's a warning about what had happened in the past. So I don't know what's going to fully happen with that one. But she admits it to the sheriff that she was Daisy, the one Brandon James was obsessed with. So the sheriff wants to know where Emma's father is because he's not in the household. We don't see him at all yet in this episode, which is like 44 minutes long. But they're going like how he might have had the PSTD, maybe something snapped. It seems is what might be the sheriff's thought. And so he wants to track him down just to see if he can get something for him. And she also shows the sheriff the note that said, "Emma looks just like you at that age." So that's a little intriguing to see. And then they go back to again with that song, "Daisy, Daisy, Give Me Your Answer To" song. But it's at a party, and Noah's talking about. Actually, Riley starts saying it was crazy how in the class they were talking about slasher films and how she had died. And Noah's like, "Oh, it's not a coincidence because she was already dead before we started talking about it." So then, Jake, being an idiot, is like, "Oh, she's scared." And Kieran goes, "Oh, you should be scared. Hometown killer might be back at the lake." natural slasher setting. And then Will apparently had a little thing with Nina in the past, which we find out from Brooke, because Will said, "Oh well, now life will at least be easier with Nina gone." So that pisses Emma off, and she just walks off. And then apparently somebody went inside Brooke's house, even though no one should be in there. We see the garage light lit. So that leads that into there with that question of who's in there. But that is what that is, because it's just how they do things in these shows. So now she's a little more agitated with her. I mean, with Will. Sorry, Emma's more agitated because he comes out after her. So he's like, "Oh, well, we were on break. You needed time to think." And she's like, "We were on less than a month break." And she's really hurt that he had a thing with Nina. And I guess it's just typical drama. And she says, "I'm getting a ride home from somewhere else." And just runs off somewhere. And Brooke's like, "Oh, Emma will get over it." And Riley just pointed out, like I had said, someone was in there. Okay. So, and then Noah's like, "A party like this, we're pretty safe because you're not going to be chased by Michael Myers or Jason because we're not alone. The killer doesn't usually, he's not the Terminator, he's not going to shoot his way through like 80 cops. He's a lone wolf. He always waits for one person to wander off, and that's when he gets it." Now, Brooke's in the garage, and one of, I guess, her father's car, or one of her cars, it's like 3 cars, so I don't know if she owns all 3, if her father owns all 3. But one of them has the door open, and you know how when the door's ajar, it's beeping? Well, it's pinging in this dark garage. So, very intriguing. I'll give it a 5 out of 10 for creepiness there. I wouldn't say it's my favorite scene. So she hears a knife. Well, we hear the knife kind of sound like it's coming unsheathed, or whatever the term would be with that. And she starts running out, and then Will just pops up out of nowhere. And Will's just starting to go off like, "Oh, well, no one's in here now. And the next time you get in between me and Emma, I will hurt you." So that's leading me to think more that he's the killer. Personally, right now, at this point in time, there's still like, I have 9 other episodes to go through before before we all know who the killer is. So, with that being said, Noah is just getting drunk at this point. He's starting to stumble. You don't wander off alone. Good night. Conks out. For me, he's just dead to the world now. He just falls asleep on the couch, drunk, which would describe me at a party. So then we cut to Emma, who goes to this like greenhouse looking thing, and Kieran's in it. And he's like, "No, you can come in here. You're fine. Even though I want to be alone, I'll make an exception for you." And she's just great. And he hands her a beer, and they're kind of talking about life in general. Like, shouldn't you like your friends in high school? Because of Will having slept with the dead. In the sense, not literally, not necrophilia, but she's like, "I thought people were good on the inside. Karen's just like, "You're in high school, you know that, right?" And they're just drinking beer and talking now. And no point really for me to comment on that. But what made the conversation interesting was we learned that Kieran had lost his mother and stepfather in They had died in a car accident 6 weeks prior. So he's living with the sheriff because he's the sheriff's kid, obviously, like I've said. And he's just saying, we all have our own problems. We all want to live that perfect life. And it's just, I give it to them. It's something new and different. So then we cut to some lake, and Noah somehow was put on to this dock in the middle of this lake. So Noah's just looking all around and screaming, "Hello, is anybody there?" Well, as he's looking around, off in the distance there's fog starting to roll in off the water, and it's just moving closer and closer where Noah is to kind of engulf him. So let's say that the killer was one of the kids. This would be their chance to get him. So when he's had enough, he jumps in. Well, he thinks he heard something or felt something, and he's looking around, nothing. There's nothing there. Well, he starts to swim off, and something had pulled him under the water. What? I don't know for sure. I don't know if maybe it was just something he got caught on. Maybe it didn't drag him, pull him down, he just fell. So then he gets back up and he's trying to swim, and boom! It seems like he's just drowning again. Well, next few minutes pass, and here comes Kieran. Kieran saved him. Kieran gets him out, and they get to the other side where that Brooks' house is, and he's swearing that someone had pulled him, but there's a fishing net that was caught on his foot. Well, while he's bleeding, I'm okay. Emma has a towel around him and all that, and they're just making sure he is okay. Audrey comes up and just goes, "Oh, real nice friends you have here, Emma." Because I'm guessing it could have been Jake who put him there. But either way, it was bad. He could have died. So they're saying, "Oh, he was the first to pass out. It's Lakewood tradition to put the first person who passes out on some stupid dock out there." But Noah keeps swearing someone was trying to pull him down, which I find okay. With that, okay, it's gonna be trying to be pulled down. Okay, not bad storytelling. And they showed the lake, and the fog just really rolled in. So apparently, the one who took her home was Kieran. And they're just like, "Oh, I'll see you at school." And he's like, "Seems likely." So I'll give it to the story writing. And then he sees his dad coming out of the house, and "Why is my dad here?" Doesn't make sense. So, "Oh, Sheriff Hudson's your dad," says Emma. And it's definitely not awkward enough, but now she has an interest in the sheriff's kid. The mother has an interest in the sheriff. So definitely talk about some odd things. So we cut to Audrey and her friend that was in the video at somebody's house. I don't know if it's Audrey's or the friend's house. But I think she's been bullied, depressed, a friend, because she's like, "Oh, I couldn't go because, I couldn't handle all those people." And all of that. And Audrey's like, "I don't regret it." But the girl's like, I keep seeing the comments, and she feels ugly. Alright, so now I'm thinking she was bullied and depressed, personally. I could be wrong with that. And Audrey's like, oh, you're beautiful, taking pictures of her. And they end up kissing again. In this case, though, in this situation, I feel a lot better with the kiss. And somehow the killer is at somebody's house just looking at them. Okay, now you want to talk about creepy. Okay, so the sheriff comes up and like, Foster, you're guilty, with that and all that. And the sheriff hears he has an interest in Brandon James, and they want him to stop by the sheriff's office. So I'm wondering if the sheriff thinks maybe Tyler didn't kill it, and maybe they're going to do that. So anyway, we go into what I think is probably one of the best parts of this now, is the monologue. Because Riley comes up and says, you never finished the story of how the story ends. So, what happened here is that, no, it's like, the whodunit isn't as important as, like, why done it. But you have to forget that this is a horror show. That everyone might die at every turn. Because, you see, you have to care if the smoking hot lit teacher is too interested in his female students. You have to care if the team wins the big game. You have to care if the smart pretty girl forgives the dumb jock. And it is like Friday nights. You root for them, you love them, so when they are brutally murdered, it hurts. And then we have Emma coming up now into Audrey's, I guess, room, and she explains she can't sleep and that she was there when Nina had filmed the tape, or the clip that went viral with her and her friend kissing each other. So I think that part was intriguing with what they did there with that. But anyway, with that, I'd have to say this has been a solid show through episode 1. It was slow, and we had to get into the characters. I get that. If I had to start with the one thing I like the most with the show itself, I like the acting. I liked the one who played Emma Duvall, Willa Fitzgerald. I liked Bexteller Klaus, who played Audrey Jensen, and the one who played Noah, John Carna, I think is his name. I like him too. Definitely so far. So then we have someone calling Emma, and apparently this person sees her crying, and the person on the phone's like, isn't that what you want on Instagram and Facebook? Perfect smiles, perfect lives. But apparently he knows some truth that even we don't know yet. So he's going to lit the mask. Okay, that's going to be fun to see. So, but I like what came with the next monologue with him. It cuts to Noah saying, hold on. Everyone has secrets. Everyone tells lies. And you see clips of these guys that have apparently secrets, but everyone apparently is fair game. But what I liked most in this was when Noah was in the car, he did this, and in the rearview mirror you see a streak of blood on his head. Which leads me to wonder if he's possibly the killer. Now that's just my personal opinion. I guess now if I had to pick something, with ratings, I'd say I'd give it a solid I'd give it a solid 6 out of 10. And here's why. Even though it was slow, because you have to introduce the characters and all of that, it had that feel of a horror film. And I personally like that more than anything. But that's just me personally. Another thing I liked with it, besides the acting and all that, I think the story, even though it was slow, was well written. You know, Nina had filmed them. We don't know if she done any other shady stuff. I hope they go more into depth with things she possibly did. That would be nice to see if there was more things she did than just film Audrey and Audrey's friend kissing and making that go viral. I really do wish there was more context to that than just that video. But I like the writing they had there. It feels weird seeing the ghost face mask different than you saw in the films. But once you get used to it a little bit, it's not too bad of a mask. And I like that it has a purpose. It wasn't just a store-bought mask to hide the face. No, Brandon James had to get all this surgery on his face, and he had that mask afterward. And I like that, it wasn't just a generic type of mask in the show, so to speak, where you could go to a store and buy it. I thought that was really interesting. Personally, if you're a fan of Scream Scream TV series is what I'm talking about. If you're a fan of the Scream movies, 1, 2, 3, and 4, I highly recommend giving this one a chance. I really think it did a good job, personally. Anyway, give me some tips on how I can improve in that. Because I am a little nervous being my first full-length video. I'm excited for episode 2. I might do that tomorrow night. I might review that tomorrow night, actually. And also, I'd like to apologize if a few of my puffs of smoke had offended anybody. Just occasionally I take a few puffs and then it goes out. I don't like cigars for that reason, but it's just me. I'll take a few during the video when I'm doing it like this. But again, going back to it, knowing with season 3 it's not going to continue it from season 2 story, I might end up writing a fan fiction and narrating it here for you guys. That's something I'd like to try to do. And I just want to thank Mark, Slackery, Volt Girl, Quick Smoke, On a Whim. You guys have helped me get enough courage to do this to where I'm enjoying it for a first time. And I personally can't wait to do episode 2, where I'm going to do more in depth. I'll talk during the whole show and give my review there. Give some out view. It's a little harder for me to do episode 1 because of the concept of it. But with it just being the pilot, it's a slow beginning. I'd rather wait to episode 2 to give real hard criticism. The only thing I didn't particularly like with it was was how long the episode was. I felt 44 for a pilot in that sense, with really no real character build. seemed a little off. At least getting us. The only character build we really got was Noah, the sheriff, kind of, knowing he's going to try his best to find out who's doing it. And Daisy. I mean, at the end, yeah, we learn that Emma was with Nina during the filming of her tape, but we didn't get that till the very end. Like, it didn't seem like that. It seemed like we only get the nice one, then boom, all of a sudden we get that. No, like, it would have been nice to know in the beginning to ourselves, like, show everyone who was involved in that, not just immediately tell us that, or let us learn that in episode 2. I think what I'm gonna like most about this is the nerd Noah Foster. I think he's gonna be the best part of this right now. Or maybe if we get something else interesting, maybe there'll be Emma's father will be coming to the show in the next episode. Anyway, I'll let y'all. I gotta get going. I'm getting tired. Leave your comments down below on suggestions on how to get better and all of that. I know it's going to take time, and I'm going to put in the time and effort to try to give the best quality. And right now, this is the best quality I can give right now. But I'm having fun with it, and I think I will do it tomorrow night. As long as the weather is permitting, nothing goes wrong with the internet or anything. So I will see y'all later, and thank you for watching.